Hello.
Hey, I did something wrong. I got confused. How are you, Jacob?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Good. I put the link in the wrong class,
I saw that.
and so I'm fixing it now. Um, I guess it won't affect you. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah.
So it'll be the
So
same link going to the rest of the class then?
yeah, I'm fixing it right now.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Okay, there we go. That should take care of it. We will see. Hey, y'all. Sorry about confusion. Mason, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Same. I'm good. I was great until I put the Zoom link in the wrong class, and now I'm a bit frazzled, but I'll get over it.
I got your email halfway through a panicked Canvas message that I was going to send you.
Yeah, so sorry. But here we are. And can y'all see my desktop? Awesome. Cool. Okay. Hello, Max and Jacob. Jacob, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Jacob, okay. Are you Jacob Level's roommate?
No, I am.
Oh,
No,
that was embarrassing. Sorry.
no.
Just
There's so many of us Jacobs.
I actually don't get embarrassed. I do get frazzled, but I don't get embarrassed. So Jacob, you've emailed me, right?
Yes,
And what did you email me about?
I emailed you that I wanted to do my paper on Thomas Aquinas.
Excellent. Now, did you email me something about the honors program?
No, that was not me.
Okay. All right. Okay. Jacob Levels.
Yes.
Show me how I can get their names to pop up. I did it the other day.
Okay. Let's go to video settings.
In Zoom?
Yes, if you go down to your video button where you could stop sharing your video, you should click on that up arrow and it should have video settings.
Is it where there's chat?
It should be down in the bottom left corner. You've got a mute button and a stop video or
Ah.
start video button.
Yes, so sorry.
And click the arrow and you should have a video settings.
By stop video?
Correct.
You're awesome. Okay. Video setting. Cool.
Let's see, I forget where it is in there.
Always display participant name on their videos.
That would be it.
Boom. That is excellent. Okay. Now, y'all, that means that your names are going to be on YouTube. Do you care?
No.
Awesome. If you do care, let me know. I will take care of it. Okay, welcome. Now, Jacob Levels. Gosh, all of a sudden I'm blanking. Jacob Dunn. We've got Michael. Hey, Michael. We've got Mason, Mirka, hello, and Max. Okay, y'all, welcome. I'm excited about this class. Did y'all see the lecture notebook thing that I put on Canvas, the PDF? Did y'all see that? Oh, please don't tell me I put it on the wrong class.
I saw the essay rubric thing.
That was last week.
Let me double check.
I only use modules and announcements. Like those are the only two things I use. One of the problems with this medieval class is that I always have to upload things twice for each section. But yeah, I see it under.
I see it now.
All
I
right,
see
cool.
it.
Good. That's what we're gonna do today. Okay. In fact, that's what we're gonna do this week. I often think about things in terms of weeks, and I hope that this week on the reading schedule, I hope that we are doing Plato and Aristotle. Yeah? Does that sound right to you guys? I'm going to pull up the reading schedule real quick. Okay, good. Perfect. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to this, and what I mean is this week. That's what we're going to do this week. We are going to read some very short excerpts, which I did put up on Canvas a while back. One from Plato's Republic, one from Aristotle's Metaphysics. They're very short, and we're gonna delve into those this week as a way to set the terms for subsequent topics and themes in medieval philosophy. Are you with me?
Yes.
That's what we're gonna do. Now, what I wanted to do before that was a little bit of cleanup and review and clarification in terms of the Gracia article and also our lectures from last week, because we only met on Wednesday last week. So that's what I'm going to do right now. If you look with me on my desktop, you also have this document on Canvas, this lecture notebook thing. I want to clarify some things from our discussion last week, including the Gracia article. And first off, some of this is super easy, but it's just stuff that you need to know as we go forward. Some of you probably know a lot of this, but look with me at A. The fall of Rome marks the beginning of the medieval period historically. Okay, so does anyone have a rough and ready date for the fall of Rome in their head?
It's like 450 or something close to
Yeah,
that.
that worked for me. 450. It was the fall of Rome, which is also kind of connected to the conversion of Constantine, even though those two events are separated by maybe 100 years. That's a great time just to think about the beginning of the medieval period. And I just wanted to throw that out there, okay? B, the big historical shift that conditions medieval thought, okay? So we could say in terms of periodization that the medieval period begins around the fall of the Roman Empire. That's in terms of chronology and the timeline, right? But in terms of ideas and concepts, what is it that sort of marks off medieval thought in contradistinction to ancient thought on the one hand and modern thought on the other? What is it conceptually that sort of makes the difference? Well, I would argue that it's B. The big historical shift that conditions medieval thought is the incarnation of the divine Logos, okay? Or the advent of the Christian gospel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I don't require you people to be Christians, to be actual believers in these things. I make no bones about that. In a way, it doesn't matter, because what we are talking about is the role that ideas have played historically. And even if you're an atheist, the fact of the matter is that Saint Augustine believed in the incarnation of the divine Logos. So did everyone who followed him, okay, in terms of Christians. Now, there's also Muslim thinkers and Jewish thinkers. I don't want to marginalize them, but I also am totally willing to embrace my limits, and I'm just one finite mind. There's only 168 hours in the day, and so I'm going to focus mainly on Christian thought. And all of the Christian thinkers after Augustine did believe in the incarnation of the divine Logos. So that's why you need to understand what it means and why it matters. Does that make sense? There is no talking about medieval philosophy apart from this. So I'm going to read B again. The big historical shift that conditions medieval thought is the incarnation of the divine Logos. Does everyone know what I mean when I say the incarnation of the divine Logos? I mean the Christian claim that in Jesus of Nazareth, God became a man. The Christian claim that in Jesus of Nazareth, the second person of the Trinity, so this also includes the Trinity, the second person of the Trinity, God the Son, took on flesh and became a human being. By the way, who can remind me of how Aristotle, I wonder if Mirka can remind me of how Aristotle defines, hey, David, how are you?
Good.
Awesome. Did you email me, David?
Yes, I did.
Did you say something about the honors program?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm getting ready to send you the paperwork for that.
Great. And you and I've met you in person on a Friday, right?
That's right. Yeah.
You got a haircut. Cool. All right. Mirka, do you remember how Aristotle defines the human being, aka man? Oh, I can't hear you.
Doesn't he say something about man being able to of thought and intelligence?
Say it again.
Of it being able, like man being able of thought and intelligence.
Yes, he certainly does. Who can help Mirka out? Okay, Mirka, before someone helps us. Yes, I think that you just sort of captured half of it. You were talking about what I'm going to call reason or rationality. Are you with me? But that's only half of his definition. Mirka, see if you can fill in the blank, and if you can't, that's fine. Someone will help. Aristotle's definition of the human being, aka man, aka the person, is a rational blank. Man is a rational blank. Can you fill in the blank? Who can help Mirka?
I can.
Great.
He defines man as a rational animal.
That's right. Did you hear that, Mirka?
Yeah.
A rational animal. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? I mean, Aristotle thinks that you and I and everyone else in this class is an animal. Now, I distinguish rational animals on the one hand versus non-rational animals on the other. I call non-rational animals beasts, okay? Like there was that, is it J.K. Rowling? Is that the author of Harry Potter?
So.
She wrote that other story, which was a halfway decent movie called something about fantastic beasts. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? A beast is a non-rational animal, but human beings are animals, according to Aristotle and Thomas Aquinas and C.S. Lewis and St. Augustine. They would all agree with Aristotle that we are animals. It's just that we are rational animals, okay? So when we say that God became man in the incarnation of the divine Logos, that includes the claim that God became an animal, right?
Mhm.
Not a beast, not an irrational animal, but God became a rational animal. Think about that. It's an amazing thought. It's an astounding thought. But yeah, this is the incarnation of the divine Logos. After this event, I'm reading on B. After this event, thinkers in the West, the heirs of the Greek legacy. Now, what's the Greek legacy? I'm talking about Plato and Aristotle and the pre-Socratics, right? The Greek legacy as opposed to what? What is the other big ingredient in Christian thought, in medieval thought?
The Hebrew Bible.
That's right. Hebrew thought, Jewish thought, the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament. That's exactly right. So after this event, the incarnation of the divine Logos, letter B, thinkers in the West, the heirs of the Greek legacy, must grapple with the claims of the Catholic Church, claims about the God-man. What do I mean when I say the God-man? That's Jesus of Nazareth, according to this tradition. They must grapple with claims about the God-man, about the Trinity, about creation, the doctrine of creation, or you could say creation ex nihilo. What does ex nihilo mean?
Out of nothing.
That's right. So thinkers after the incarnation, they have to grapple with claims about the God-man, about the Trinity, about creation, ex nihilo, and about providence and history. Let me ask you a question. Did Plato and Aristotle have to grapple with claims about the Trinity? Yes or no? Come on.
I'd say no,
Yes. Why do you say no, Jacob?
because those Greek thinkers were like 300 or 400 years before Christ.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Now, one of the amazing things that we're going to see in this class, and students in my intro class even see this, is that there's all sorts of ways in which Greek thinkers prefigure the Trinity. Like, that's true. But there is no explicit doctrine of the Trinity, certainly before Christ, and maybe not even before about 200 AD. Okay. So yeah, the point I'm trying to make is the incarnation is a big deal. And that is what historically conditions medieval thought. Okay. And I just wanted to make sure that I emphasize that. C, in ancient philosophy, we are here thinking mainly about the pre-Socratic, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. There is a major privileging of stability over change. Okay. So you've got these two things that don't change, like, for example, the definition of a triangle, or I'll just leave it at that. Things that don't change. You might think of science or mathematics, things that don't change versus things that do change. Who can give me an example of something that changes?
A tree.
Yes, anything in nature changes. And what you have in ancient philosophy is a privileging. What does that mean? What is a privileging? It's a preference. It's a prioritization. They give a high five to things that don't change, like triangles, like the definition of a triangle, like Plato's forms, possibly like the perfect circle of the celestial bodies. We'll come to that in a moment. They like that stuff, but they don't like stuff that changes, okay? Look with me at number C. There's a major privileging of stability over change. Numbers, forms, unmoved mover. Those are all stable things. The realm of change, or what? What's a synonym for change?
Flux.
Flux. If you took my intro class, you should be thinking of Heraclitus, okay? Heraclitus says that all is flux. That's also Plato's realm of becoming. The realm of change or flux is the realm of unintelligibility or chaos, okay, for the ancients. Continue reading with me on C. But is this stance an option for the medieval thinker, given the fact that God incarnate is now a man? That God incarnate is now a rational animal? No, or at least not if they want to be consistent. At the very least, one can say that for the medieval, becoming a la Plato, that is to say, temporality or the realm of flux becomes a serious issue in a way that it was not for the ancients. Now, y'all, I really want to make sure that y'all are with me on this. Let me say the whole thing again, and then I'm going to sort of ask you questions just to make sure that you're with me. What I'm trying to say, remember, Mirka, God became, in the incarnation, God became a what?
An animal.
Yeah, an animal. Now, is an animal a thing that changes like trees and nature, or is an animal a thing that never changes like the definition of a triangle?
It changes like nature.
That's right. So what you have in the doctrine of the incarnation is this crazy idea that, frankly, Plato and Aristotle, it would have made them vomit, that God, remember, we're going to see in a moment that Aristotle defines God as the unmoved mover. We're going to see that for Aristotle, it's very important to realize that God does not change. And if you've had my intro class, you should be thinking of Parmenides here. God does not change. For Plato, for Aristotle, are you with me so far? But then the gospel writers, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they come along and they say that God, the thing that Aristotle calls an unmoved mover, God is now an animal. Wow. God, the thing that never changes, the thing that's supremely stable, is now a little baby who burps and whose diaper has to be changed and who died on a cross, who bled and suffered, right? That's crazy talk for Aristotle and Plato and for the ancients, for the Greeks, right? But for Christians, that's the claim. The claim that Christianity makes is crazy talk for the ancients, and they have to grapple with it. They can't just ignore it. They can't pretend that the incarnation didn't happen. They can't pretend that God didn't become an animal. They can't do that. That's the essence of the faith. So they have to do something. Are you with me so far? I'm just trying to say that it's an issue. If you want to understand what's going on with medieval thought, you got to understand this. This is like the foundation. Okay? Now, before I go to D, does anyone have any questions? And by the way, welcome Malia and Max, welcome. Does anyone have any questions or comments about what I've just said? I want to make sure you understand it. A lot of this we're gonna keep going through for the rest of this week and today, but does anyone have any questions or comments at the moment? I hope that you can see how some of these comments that I'm making are connected to the Gracia article, okay?
Certainly.
All right, look with me at D. And again, this is kind of like it's kind of just like a historical thing that you need to know. It's the rediscovery of Aristotle in the 12th century. Remember, Thomas Aquinas and Bonaventure are in what century? They're in the 13th century, the 1200s. And their dates are very similar. Their dates are basically both 1225 to basically 1275. Are you with me? But that is the 13th century. So Thomas Aquinas and Bonaventure are in the 13th century. It was roughly a century before them that Aristotle gets rediscovered. Also Plato, as we'll see in a moment. So it's the rediscovery of Aristotle in the 12th century that gives rise to scholastic thought. And see, okay, what is scholastic thought? We're going to come back to this over and over again, but for now, I just want you to think, I just want you to I just want you to regard scholastic thought as systematic. Like, have you ever heard the phrase systematic theology? Raise your hand if you've ever heard the phrase systematic theology. Have y'all ever heard that phrase? What in the world is systematic theology? Well, systematic theology is kind of like a system of doctrine that is elaborate and everything has to cohere. It's like an elaborate system of logic. Okay, kind of like a geometry textbook. A geometry textbook, like I assume that you had geometry in high school. That's kind of like my stock example for systematic thinking. And it's the rise of Aristotle, the rediscovery of Aristotle in the 12th century that gives rise to theology as systematic. What do we call that? We call that scholastic theology, okay? Now, what is the opposite of scholastic theology? The opposite of scholastic theology is called monastic theology. What is monastic theology? Monastic theology, what does the word monastic mean? It's talking about monks and nuns. Are you with me? Monastic theology is more devotional. It's more spiritual. It's probably more along the lines of what you've experienced in Sunday school or a Bible study. See, I guess what I'm trying to say to you is that it's the rediscovery of Aristotle. The rediscovery of Aristotle changes everything. Because for the first time, Christian thinkers like Thomas Aquinas and his master, Peter the Great, Albert the Great, for the first time, they're able to take Aristotle's rigorous systematic thinking and apply it to theology. But before Aristotle was rediscovered, people were in a much more monastic mode. I'm oversimplifying a lot. I'm not trying to say that people before the 12th century, like Anselm and Augustine, were stupid or that they were just purely emotional. No. They were brilliant. They were rigorous, but they weren't systematic in the way that Aristotle is. But after Aristotle gets rediscovered and people like Albert the Great and Thomas Aquinas assimilate him, they begin to do theology in that systematic, deductive, logically rigorous mode. Does that make sense? We're going to see that is when we get to Thomas Aquinas, but that's D. And I wanted to throw that out there. I have a couple of other things that I wrote down in chicken scratch that aren't on the handout. So one of the things that Gracia talks about, you could regard this as letter E on my little list of clarifications. One of the things that Gracia talks about is the relationship between philosophy and theology, right? And again, this has to do with the rise of Aristotle, because y'all, the definition of philosophy and theology changes with the rise of Aristotle. With the rise of Aristotle, people begin to think about theology differently and philosophy. Those two things they're related, and the way that their relationship is construed changes when Aristotle is rediscovered. What do I mean? Well, think about it like this. And this, I hope you're taking notes on this. I wish I would have put it on the outline. Maybe I should right now. I'm just going to talk. So in the 13th century, and please understand that the 13th century is kind of like the high watermark of medieval thought. In the 13th century, aka in the thinking of Thomas Aquinas and Bonaventure, when they talk about philosophy, what do you think they're talking about? Or put it like this: when they talk about the philosopher with a capital P, the philosopher, who do you think that they have in mind?
God.
Good guess, but no.
Aristotle.
Yes, it's Aristotle. When they talk about the philosopher with a capital P, you need to write this down. They mean Aristotle. Aristotle is the philosopher. Now, let me ask you a question. Is Aristotle a Christian?
No.
No, Aristotle is what we would call a pagan. That word pagan is not an insult. It simply means non-Christian, non-Jew, non-Muslim. Was Aristotle a Christian? No. Was he Jewish? No. Was he Muslim? No. He was a pagan. And when Thomas Aquinas talks about the philosopher, he means Aristotle, a non-Christian. But what does Augustine mean when he talks about philosophy? Remember, Augustine is, 800 years or something like that before Thomas Aquinas. Are you with me? And I will write this down, but you need to be taking notes also. For Augustine, verum, this is one of like maybe 5 Latin phrases that I want you to think about. Verum philosophus amator Dei est. The true philosopher is the lover of God. I don't know why the quotes are doing that. The true philosopher. Y'all, do you see the fee right there? Y'all see the fee right there? Malia, do you see that right here, this fee?
Yeah.
That is my symbol for what? I'll give you a hint. It's right there again. Medieval and Renaissance what?
Philosophy.
Philosophy. Phi is my little symbol for philosophy. Guess what my symbol for theology is? It's a theta. See that? You see that? It's a theta. That's my symbol for theology. So philosophy is a phi or a phi, like phi kappa alpha, whatever. Theta is my symbol for theology. And when Augustine says, verum philosophus amator Dei est, the translation of that is the true philosopher is the what?
Follower of God, or lover of God.
Lover of God. So am I making sense? So Thomas says that the philosopher is Aristotle. Is Aristotle a Christian? No, he's a pagan. But Augustine, 800 years earlier, says the true philosopher is the lover of God. Do you see how the definition of philosopher changes? With Augustine, by the way, what is the etymological meaning of the word philosophy, philosophia?
Love of wisdom.
Love of wisdom. That's right. Love of wisdom. Augustine says the true lover of wisdom, the true philosopher, is the lover of God. But Thomas Aquinas, 800 years later, says the true philosopher is Aristotle. Does everyone see how that's a shift in the meaning of philosophy? Max, do you see that?
Yes, I do.
It's a shift in the meaning of philosophy. And what I want you to know is that that shift leads to another shift. What is the other shift? The shift in the meaning of what?
Philosophy?
The shift in the meaning of philosophy leads to the shift in the meaning of what other thing?
Theology.
Theology. That's exactly right. I'm going to hit the pause button right here and leave this for now. But for E, the point about E is that you need to know that the meaning of the term philosophy shifts radically from Augustine's time to Thomas's time. It starts out by being a Christian thing, the lover of wisdom, but by the time we get to Thomas, because Aristotle's been rediscovered, and there's a lot there that I'm not talking about, suddenly philosophy is not something that is explicitly Christian. In fact, it's pagan. It's not bad. For Thomas, it's not bad, but it's not explicitly Christian. Okay? And I want you to see that the meaning of philosophy changes because of the rediscovery of Aristotle in the Latin-speaking West. Okay? Now I'm going to keep going. Y'all, last time we talked about universals. Do you remember how there was a section in the Gracia article about universals? Remember that?
Mhm.
Okay. I want to show you a picture, and this is also something that I show the people in my other class, my intro class. I know that y'all are all familiar with this, right? I wish I could make it big. I know that y'all are all familiar with this, right? You see this? This right here?
We're still on the Word document.
Oh. Okay. Thanks. I wanted to share my desktop. Boom. Can you see it now? Do you see this? These pictures? What is
Yes.
this? What is this that I'm pointing out to you right now? What is that?
The scientific classification of nature.
Yeah, yeah. It was invented by a dude named Charles Linnaeus. I like this one better. Now, let me ask you a question. And I want Michael to answer this. Cool?
Okay.
Michael, which is more specific, class or phylum? Which is more specific?
I think class, right?
Yes. So, Jacob, which is more general, domain or family?
Domain.
That's right. Now, does everyone see that? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, y'all, remember last time we talked about, first off, these are universals. Okay. These are universals. Even species is a universal. Why? Because a species is not the same thing as a dog, as my dog named Janie. My dog named Janie is a particular, or what Gracia calls an individual, but species is not an individual, right? Species is a class. Now, it's the most specific class, but it's still a class. Are you with me? Now, it gets more general as you go up, right? Genus is more general than species. Family is more general than genus, right? All the way up to what's the most general category.
Just that it's alive in some way.
Yeah. Now, by the way, did y'all learn that when you took life science or whatever in high school? Okay, cool. Now, here's the point. I want you to imagine that it continues up. Right? So imagine that it keeps going up, and it includes not just things that are alive, but dead things, rocks. And it keeps getting more and more and more and more general. You can imagine that at one of those more general levels, you might have a class called thing, right? Does that make sense? Okay, now remember how we were talking about the relationship between metaphysics and theology, which is also the same as the relationship between being and what?
Becoming?
No.
Doing?
Good guess. Sorry?
Doing?
Nope. God.
Oh, God. Oh, okay.
God, right? So again, remember how we were talking about the relationship between metaphysics and theology, which is the same as the relationship between being, that's metaphysics, and God, that's theology, right? Now, and remember how I said that there's good guys and bad guys. And this is my opinion, so I admit that. But it also, I'm illuminating the issues for you. I want you to imagine that there's all these more and more general categories. So genus, family, boom, 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 phylum, domain, life. Life is super general, right? But then imagine that there's an even more general or more universal category called thing. That's pretty general, right? That's pretty universal. Not only does it include dogs, cats, rational animals, Starbucks cups, poems, and rocks, I mean, it includes all of that and more, right? Like that's super general thing. Now, imagine that there's a more general category even still. Guess what that category might be called?
Possible things.
Good guess. And that's, I like that. But no, being. Being. Imagine that the most general category is being. See, this is one of the issues that Gracia was talking about. That view, the view that Charles Linnaeus could have included more and more general categories all the way up to the most general category called being, that view is called generic being. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
It's more generic than kingdom. It's more generic than domain. It's even more generic than thing. It's super generic being. Okay. Now, remember, in Aristotle's metaphysics, which we're going to talk about in a moment, he uses this phrase being qua being, right? Being qua being. Or you could call that being as such, being as being. Now, here's the point. Some people think, and I'm calling these people the bad guys because I disagree with this view. Some people think that Aristotle's talking about general being, as if being is just the most general class of reality. If that's true, then being, this generic being, becomes more ultimate than God. Okay? By the way, this is the view of Duns Scotus. It's also the view that I mentioned last time of Suarez, another Spanish guy named Cajetan, and Martin Heidegger, and many, many, many other people in the Western philosophical tradition. This is called generic being. What I'm trying to say to you is that on this view, being is like the most general category. It's more general than genus, order, kingdom, domain, even more general than thing. It's the most generic class possible. It's called generic being. And if that's true, that is more ultimate than God. And really, God then becomes a thing in the world. Now, he's the strongest thing, like Thanos, right? But Thanos is still just a thing. Yes, he's the strongest. He can bench press 2,000 pounds, but he's still just a thing. The other view is that being qua being, that Aristotle talks about in metaphysics, he's talking about what? Not generic being.
God.
God. That's my view. I think he's talking about the unmoved mover. Okay? But I wanted to make this point about being, universals, classes, and I wanted to use the Linnaean hierarchy of genus and species to get that, okay? What we're talking about here is the relationship between metaphysics and theology, and that's a huge issue for medieval thought, but it's also a huge issue for modern thought, okay? All right, y'all, I've got one more clarification piggybacking from last time, and then we're going to launch into Plato's line. We're going to try to do Plato's line today, which, can y'all see my desktop? Plato's line is sort of like the next big thing that we're doing this week. And remember, I organize my lectures week by week, not class by class, week by week, okay? So right now, I'm still giving you some clarifications from last time, both from the lecture and the Gracia article. The last one has to do, well, the last one is about UFOs. What's a UFO? And this is, I hope my friend Mark Burton is watching because he's the one that talked to me about this. What is a UFO?
An unidentified flying object.
Now, do they exist? I'm going to ask Jacob, do they exist?
Which one of us?
Either one.
It depends on who you ask, really.
Yeah, but I'm asking you. And you have to say yes or no.
See, I can't do
You can't
that.
say I don't know. So do they
Because-
exist? Okay, I'm gonna say no.
I'm gonna go on the no side.
I'm gonna say no. Okay, now wait. That means that UFOs have no existence, right?
Correct.
Malia, is that right? I mean, like, I'm not. What I'm asking is this: Jacob and I just agreed that UFOs aren't real. Now, Malia, if that's true, would you agree with me that UFOs lack existence / being?
I don't know.
Okay, Mirka, what about you? Would you agree with me that if UFOs aren't real, they're not real. If they're not real, then they lack being. They lack existence.
Yes.
I agree. Now, Jacob Dunn, are you with me right now?
Yes.
Michael, are you with me right now?
I disagree. I think they exist as an idea.
Okay, but that doesn't matter. The claim is if they're not real, then they lack being. Okay?
Okay.
Like that's what we're discussing. We're not actually having a debate about whether they're real or not. I probably agree with you. I don't really care right now, but assuming that they are not real, they lack being. Does everyone agree with me on that?
So in that sense, are we equating real with existence? Those are synonyms.
Yes, we are. And just say yes and hang with me, because here's the point. We've established that UFOs do not have being / existence, right? I mean, for our thought experiment. Here's the real question. Do they have an essence? Is there an essence of UFO? Yes. By the way, same for unicorns. Do unicorns exist? I really used to want them to. I still do. I used to actually sort of try to make an argument that unicorns exist. But right now, I'm just going to say that they don't exist, which means that they have no being. But do they have an essence? Yes. Remember, what is an essence? It's the definition of a thing in a philosophically airtight dictionary. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
So what is the point right now? The point right now is that things can have an essence, even if they don't exist. Or put it a different way, there is a difference between existence on the one hand and essence on the other. That's the point. Now, the real point is that that's actually not true with respect to God. But we'll come back to that later. For everything other than God, essence and existence are different. It's one thing to have a definition, unicorns have a definition, but it's another thing actually to exist. Those are two different things. Essence and existence, two different things. All right? Now, y'all, who is confused right now? Is anyone confused right now? You might have questions, that's fine. But is there anyone who's lost? And if you are, it's okay. Believe me, it's okay. But I want to know, is anyone lost right now? This is my first time to teach this class, and so you're my guinea pigs.
I wasn't lost on the existence versus essence thing, but can I go back a little bit and ask a question?
Tell me what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, it was in the transition, the shift in the meaning of philosophy.
Okay.
Yeah, in the Gracia article, it says, in contrast, philosophy in the Middle Ages was subordinated to theology, and the center of intellectual attention was God and his revelation rather than human beings. Human beings were studied only as creatures of God, made in his image and likeness. So I was a little confused because you made it
Yeah.
sound like we went from Augustine, who was focused on God, to Aquinas, who was just focused on philosophy.
Well, that's the thing. Aquinas isn't just focused on philosophy. He's also focused on theology.
Mhm.
But the specific thing that we're talking about, Jacob, is that the meaning of the term philosophy has changed.
Okay.
So even in that definition, I agree with everything Gracia said. Everything Gracia said just there is consistent with what I'm saying.
Mhm.
The point isn't that Thomas Aquinas would say that he's a mere philosopher. No. The point is that he defines philosophy different than Augustine did. Basically, you could put it like this. For Augustine, there's no difference between philosophy and theology. That's not a meaningful distinction to him. What Augustine would say is all of that is Christian wisdom. All of that is Christian wisdom. Philosophy, he doesn't have a distinction between philosophy and theology. But by the time Aristotle gets rediscovered, he forces the issue. The rediscovery of Aristotle, it prompts a crisis in Christian thought. And honestly, it's a crisis that is still going to this day. And I can prove that to you. But am I making sense now, Jacob?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Good. Now, y'all, we have about 10 minutes. And look, let me tell you this, medieval philosophy students, there's only one way you can piss me off. It's kind of like Jesus. There's only one group of people that pissed him off, the Pharisees, the legalists, the religious types. Did the harlots make Jesus angry? No. What about the tax collectors? No. Only one group of people, the religious types, the hypocrites, right? In the same way, there's only one way that you can there's only one way you're not going to have a good experience in this class. And that is if you're confused, but you don't admit it. All right. So yeah, love you guys. We're going to talk about Plato's line. And dadgummit, I really wish I would have put a picture up. I did put a picture up of Aristotle's metaphysical spectrum, but we're not going to get to that today. Look with me at the outline, Roman numeral 2. We're talking about Plato's line. This Plato is one of two examples of a primary text. What's a primary text? It's like a classical source. It's not commentary. It's not a modern book. Like the Bible is a primary source because it's withstood the test of time. Have people been reading the Bible for hundreds and hundreds of years? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Will people be reading the Bible in 500 years, assuming that the human race still exists? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, what about hang on. What about this book? I, Rigoberta Menchú, published in 1992. Do you think people will be reading this book in 500 years? I mean, it's a good book, but I doubt it. What about this? What is the title of this book?
Gospel of Matthew.
Now, is this actually the Gospel of Matthew? Yes or no?
No.
What is it?
That's a commentary.
It's a commentary. Is this a primary text or a secondary text?
Secondary.
That's right. It's a secondary text because do you think people will be reading this 500 years from now? No. Were they reading it 500 years ago? No. But were they reading the Gospel of Matthew 500 years ago?
Yes.
And will they be reading it in 500 years, assuming that the human race is still around?
Yes.
Yes, they will. So there's only two primary texts from the ancient world. Remember, the ancient world is before the medieval world, right? Are you with me, Max?
Yeah.
The ancient world, we're talking about like Plato and Aristotle, the Greeks, right? There's only 2 examples of primary texts that we're going to go back and dip into. One of them is Plato's Republic, book 6, just one little page. I hope you read it. And this is Plato's Image of the Line, and I'm gonna do this in less than 10 minutes. Okay, look with me at Roman numeral 2 on your screen. Notice that Plato's writing style is so different from like Aristotle's. Now, I don't know if you've read Aristotle yet. I hope you have, but like Plato it's like he's writing a play or something. It's called a dialogue. That's important. B, look with me at B. This image of the line is one of 3 images. What do I mean by image? I mean like a metaphor, a symbol, an analogy. That's what I mean by image, okay? This image of the line is one of 3 images for what you might call the essence of philosophy in this portion of the Republic. The other 2 being the allegory of the cave and the image of the sun, okay? C, this is number C is the one that you need to know, okay? Because what Socrates does, and remember, Socrates is always like the protagonist, almost always the protagonist of Plato's dialogues. And what Socrates does in this dialogue is he says, okay, imagine a line. And he says, okay, now chop the line in half, right? And this is where I wish I would have made a graphic for y'all. You can find them online. You can find them online. I'm just going to keep going. He says, imagine a line, chop it in half. You've got a top part and a bottom part, right? Now chop each of those in half, and now you have 4 segments, right? And he says, we're going to put a label on each of those 4 segments, and we're going to start at the bottom and go up. So we're going to start at the bottom and go up. And we start, Plato says, Socrates says, with images. The Greek word, I put the Greek words here. I probably won't test you on them except for maybe number 2 and maybe number 4. But we're going to start at the bottom with images. The Greek word there is akasia, which is connected to the Greek word for image, which is akon, which is kind of like icon. So in the book of Genesis 1:28, where it says that the Lord God made mankind in his own what?
Icon.
His own image. The Greek word there is akon. That's right, or icon. Good. So at the bottom of the line, at the beginning of this journey, you start with images, and then you move up to faith. Faith. The Greek word is pistis. There's other translations. I think that Alan Bloom, who translated the text that you read, calls it opinion. That's fine. You could call it opinion. You could call it faith. There's other things you could call it belief. I call it faith for specific reasons. But you've got images, then you have faith. And y'all, I can tell we're not going to finish this today. That's fine. We'll come back to it.
Are these? I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is this similar to the class, genus, etc., wherein one becomes more specific from the other?
No.
Okay.
No, this is just what this is like a growth in your intellectual maturity. So at the bottom of the line, it's kind of like you're a 4-year-old riding a bike with training wheels, and at the top of the line, it's kind of like you've won the Tour de France. What this is, it's a journey or a pilgrimage of human knowing.
Sort of leaving the cave.
Huh?
Sort of leaving the cave.
Absolutely, leaving the cave. Yes. It's a journey. You might say it's a journey toward becoming enlightened. It's an intellectual pilgrimage. It's a journey of the mind. And so you start at the bottom with images. But y'all, here's the thing about images. Like, I wish I had like a picture of a bird or something. But like, here's an image of a Mayan woman, right? Like, is this a real Mayan woman? Like, is there a Mayan woman in my office?
No.
No, it's just an image. Well, it's as if Socrates is saying maybe everything is like that. So, Jacob, like, is there a cup in your room right now? Jacob Dunn, is there a cup in your room?
Yes.
Okay, look at it right now.
Okay.
Now, that's an image. Like, the point right here is that you don't know that it's real. It's as if you don't know that it's real. Right? It's like the Matrix or Descartes, if you've ever read the Meditations. What's going on in the Matrix? Like, imagine that you're in the Matrix. You look at something and it's not real, right? That's kind of what Socrates / Plato is getting at here. You've got images, but how do you know if they're real? How do I know if this marker is real? Maybe it's just an image. How do I know if my hand is real? Maybe it's just an image. Well, you need faith. See, faith is kind of like the confidence that things are real. It's kind of like, you know, you can imagine a chair. Let's say that you go to let's say you go to Truvine or the Foundry, and you see a chair across the room, and you go to sit. You see the chair, and you start walking to it, and you're like, I'm going to go sit in that chair, right? Well, it's one thing to see the chair. It's another thing to actually sit in it. To actually sit in the chair, you need something like faith. You might call it confidence. To sit in the chair, you need confidence that it's going to hold you up, right? That's kind of like what Plato means here by faith or pistis. Yes, there's all these things that we see, like cups and iPhones and kitty cats. But how do we know that they're real? Well, for in this little exercise, we trust that they're real. All right, so you've got images at the bottom, and then you have faith or trust or confidence or pistis or belief. Then you keep going and you come to something called discursive thought. Y'all, let me hear you say discursive thought.
Discursive thought.
Discursive thought.
Discursive thought.
Good. Discursive thought is kind of like a proof in your geometry textbook. It is moving through elements and putting them together. So, for example, there's the famous syllogism: Socrates is a man, all men are mortal, therefore what?
Socrates is a mortal man.
Right, Socrates is mortal. So you've got premise 1, premise 2, conclusion, right? Well, discursive thinking is moving through those elements. Step 1, step 2, step 3. That's discursive thinking. What Thomas Aquinas calls it, and I'm going to put it in a little footnote here. What Thomas Aquinas calls this is componendo et dividendo. Putting stuff together and taking stuff apart. So if you do a geometry proof, you're putting stuff together, right? Can you see that? That's componendo, composing stuff. But if you make distinctions like, an isosceles triangle is not the same thing as an acute triangle, right? That's a distinction. You're taking things apart. That's dividendo. Are you with me? But those are both examples of discursive thinking. That's the third segment on Plato's line. So you've got images, and then you move up to faith, pistis. Then you move up to discursive thinking, putting stuff together, taking stuff apart. But that's not the highest level. The highest level for Plato is what he calls nous, or intellect. Nous is the Greek word for mind. In Latin, it's intellectus or intellect. And that's the final moment. It's the final moment of this journey of the mind. Plato wants to say that there's something super important, super awesome, super special about intellect, mind. And I'm just going to say this right now. Maybe the thing that's so special about it is that you can see the whole. W-H-O-L-E. When you get to the top of the line, mind, intellect, you can grasp everything somehow. You can grasp the totality of something. See, with discursive thought, you're moving through elements. Socrates is a man. 2 elements. Then step 2. All men, that's an element. Are mortal, that's a new element. See, you're just camping out on elements. Your focus is on one thing, this thing, that thing, one after the other. It's like one damn thing after the other, all right? But with mind, nous, intellect, suddenly it's like you have an epiphany, an aha moment, and you can grasp the whole, all right? Now, y'all, I'm gonna read this last paragraph and then we'll stop. Because in that image of the line, there's even something above nous, and it's the sun, S-U-N. Look with me at this bullet point. Note that the sun is completely beyond the line. The sun is above the line. You've got the line, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, but then you've got something above the line, something transcendent to the line. What is it? It's the sun, S-U-N. Note that the sun is completely beyond the line, transcendent to it, implying perhaps that the entire trajectory of the line, that is to say, its direction of movement, is toward the sun. Imagine an arrow going up the line, pointing to the sun. It may be that Plato intends the sun to be an image for the what?
Good.
The good. What in the world does Plato mean by the good? Well, maybe the forms. It may be that Plato intends the sun to be an image for the good, or the forms, which in some sense can be thought of as culminating in the good. It's easy to interpret the good, aka the sun, it's easy to interpret that as God as well. And look with me at footnote 4, and then we'll stop. Can y'all see it? To my mind, this is footnote 4. To my mind, I'll make it bigger. Did that help? Footnote 4. To my mind, this is the ultimate expression of Plato's theos. What does theos mean?
God.
God. To my mind, this is the ultimate expression of Plato's theos. That is his equivalent version of Aristotle's unmoved mover. What I'm trying to say is that Plato's God is the good. That's what I'm trying to suggest to you. Note that both Plato and Aristotle are demythological thinkers. Neither take Zeus or the pantheon of Greek deities to be ultimate in the sense of truth, philosophical truth. See, neither Plato or Aristotle think that Zeus is really the ultimate explanatory principle that exists. No, they don't. I'm suggesting, in other words, that with Plato's good and with Aristotle's unmoved mover, we come closest to all, among all pagan thinkers, we come closest to the I am what I am, Yahweh, Exodus 3, as we come closest to that as that is to say Yahweh, I am what I am, as that has been interpreted by Christian and maybe Jewish and Muslim theologians. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that Plato's good here that we see in the line metaphor, as well as Aristotle's unmoved mover, that's as close as the pagan thinkers get to the Christian God, and or the Jewish God or the Muslim God. And if you want to know what I mean by Jewish God, Christian God, Muslim God, think about the story of Exodus 3, the burning bush, where something says, I am what I am, Yahweh, and how Christians have thought about that. Okay, y'all, that's it for me. I went over my time. There's a lot here, but if you hang with me, you're going to be awesome. Okay. Oh, y'all, I need you to send me an email telling me what thinker you're going to write your paper on and what your scheduling constraints are. I've only heard from like 3 or 4 of you. I need to hear from all of you. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry. Quick question before we leave.
Yeah.
Where can I find the thinkers again?
What thinkers? Oh, it's on the reading schedule.
Reading schedule. Okay.
You could use the reading schedule, or you could use the required reading in the syllabus. Are you with me?
Yes.
But I can also name them for you right now. You've got Augustine, you've got Thomas and Bonaventure. That's it, right? That's pretty much it. Y'all, if someone wants to do some other thinker or some other project, I'm very open to that. I am. I'm very open to that. But those are my 3 sort of suggestions. Augustine, Aquinas, Bonaventure. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So send me an email before Wednesday, please, telling me what thinker you're going to choose and if you have any scheduling restraints. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to schedule you for your presentation, because remember, the presentation is like a practice version or like training wheels for the paper. Okay? All right.
Okay.
Good to be with you guys. We did a lot. We did a lot today, but I think it was good.
Okay, and sorry, one last question. I'm sorry if you already said this in a previous class.
Yeah.
But are we doing Zoom meetings over in person, or are we going back to in person?
I hope that we will go back in person at some point, but we're going to do Zoom meetings indefinitely. We're going to do Zoom meetings for the time being.
Okay, so
And
we'll know if we do go in person.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I think that I put that in an announcement in both sections on Canvas. And if I didn't, forgive me, but I think I did. Okay.
Sounds good.
Peace out. Y'all have a good one. I'll see you on Wednesday.
All right.
You too.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.